Didn't the other kids tell you not to come here? Go back before it's too late!
At the heart of horror, there has always been more than spooks and scares.
Sometimes, it's not what you see, but what you hear.
Welcome to Sound Scary.
Each week, we talk to the artists, the musicians, the fans, the people who haunt the shadowy corners of your mind.
Join us as we delve into the deepest,
Darkest.
and most unforgettable earscapes.
Welcome
To Sound Scary. Welcome to Sound Scary. I'm Jimmy O, and of course, my co-host.
Hi, I'm Ryan Coltrera, and today, as part of our summer book series, we are happy to welcome Mortellus to Sound Scary. They're the author of The Bones Fall in a Spiral. Mortellus, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So to kick things off, I wanted to kind of get into your background and talk about how did you find yourself making a connection with the world of death and kind of magical practices associated with that?
That's one of those tough questions people often ask me, and I'm afraid that the story is not pretty, and I've told it before in other interviews and in my first book, Which Way Am I Pointing? So I'll skip over a lot of it. I think it'd be a little hard for me today, but the long and short of it is I was sexually assaulted when I was 5 years old, and attempted to take my own life at that ripe old age. So big old trigger warning in your notes probably for listeners, but I died. Wow, it's weird how some days I can get through that story and other days it's just super hard. But I wound up in a coma for 4 days, at the end of which I flatlined, and they attempted to resuscitate me for 20 minutes, which was the standard at the time, and they called time of death. And I laid on the table for 8 minutes before I spontaneously revived. They call that the Lazarus phenomenon, when you revive after death. So for 28 minutes I was dead. And it is a freaking miracle that I don't have brain damage, actually, because I was oxygen deprived for so long. But so here I am, this kid who's been through some shit and growing up in an evangelical cult. Yay, fun parts of my backstory. Life is super fucked up. It's like a 60-minute special. Again, if people really want to hear those stories in depth, I've told them before. I can't get through it today. It's too hard. But
Totally fair.
Well, I mean, not to dive into that, but yeah, I can imagine the PTSD connected with that. That's insane. Like, when did you feel like you started moving forward and found some comfort and have you found anything?
Fuck. I've said before, and I'll say it again for y'all, but you'd think at my age, I'm 41, you'd think that one day you're going to get up and not have nightmares about it anymore, but it's not how it is.
Oh my gosh.
It's just something you have to get up and process all over again every single day. And some days are easier than others. And some days I can get through it without thinking about it. And other days it's something you carry around like a backpack that is too tight and too heavy. And it is what it is.
Wow.
And yeah, PTSD is a whole thing. And been in therapy for over 20 years since I ran away from home at 17. And it's funny, for a while my therapist wanted to put me in like a support group, therapy group, and they decided to put with combat veterans because some of the things I experienced as a kid were so extreme. And they asked that I be removed from the group because they found what I had experienced too troubling. The combat veterans didn't want to hear it.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Jeez.
I mean, thank you for sharing that with us. I'm sorry to kick off the interview like this. So.
That's And that's the tough answer to how did I wind up here. And
Right.
Wow.
I came back from that experience of being dead, just super weird, and that went over great with my evangelical family. Of course, I just come back this total wall. But I was dead for 28 minutes, but to me it was lifetimes. I have all these memories from being dead that were just spanned over this huge expanse of time, which is weird to have this entire life that you lived before you wake up on a table still 5 years old, and that's
Right.
it's kind of a mind fuck.
Wow.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, seriously.
Wow. Kind of moving to a more positive, you've found a way through your books, through your work, to kind of, has that been therapeutic for you? Has that been kind of a way to talk about that? How did you discover putting it to good use?
During the time that I was dead, I met who I believe was a deity, and they gave me some instructions for life. They were like, you can't stay here. You have to go back, and it's still gonna fucking suck, right? Your life is still gonna be hard. It's not gonna get better, but you don't have to be afraid of it anymore. It's gonna hurt, but pain is what it is, and they can't really touch you anymore.
Wow.
Not in a way that matters. But I knew from the moment I woke up that death was going to be my work. Like I had that instruction. I knew what that was going to be. So I, early on, like immediately after running away from home, I wound up volunteering for hospice. I still do that 21 years later. I do something called the 11th hour care or night's watch when people don't have loved ones to be with them. They call in night's watch to sit with them overnight in case they pass away during the night so that they won't be alone. So I've been doing that for 21 years. Read to them, tell them stories, talk to them. They love hearing about my kids and stuff. So that's a big part of what I do. And I sort of took a winding path toward being clergy, and that's also a big part of my life. I'm a Gardnerian Wiccan high priestess, and I run a teaching coven, and clergy work's a big thing, doing a lot of like disaster spiritual care when there are hurricanes. I spent a lot of time in New Orleans after Katrina helping folks out.
Oh, wow.
And, out on the ground doing work, and wound up going to mortuary sciences school as a way to sort of expand on the death work that I was doing. And of course, my personal practice as a witch, I'm doing mediumship and all this other stuff that's sort of connected to what I'm doing. And so yeah, I wound up going to mortuary sciences school and just kind of expanding on the work that I was doing through that. And I realized that the industry is vastly Christian in ways that you could never imagine. It just ridiculously, it's sort of entrenched. And that sort of became my soapbox. Right? That was my call to arms. Like I'm gonna go out there and make this different for people, even if it sucks for me, and it does. Like the industry hates me. Like I'm currently fighting the board in my state for my license. It's like a whole thing.
Wow.
But if you're gay and you're not Christian, they hate you. They already hate you if you're feminine presenting, but it's so much worse. But yeah, I think that getting into writing and being able to share those things with people in a more tangible sort of way. I mean, people know what I do, but when you can hold it and read it and make it your own, that's different. And it has been healing. It has been important. I don't know if that ramble answered your question, but here we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was
Thank
a
you.
great answer. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Actually.
And I feel like the topic of death, I suppose, is treated as such a taboo in our society.
It is.
What do you think people should focus on to kind of shift their perspective, and what do you wish people would change about their perceptions of death?
I think I get asked that question now and again, and I feel like I have a really jackass answer to it. But the reality is that you're already doing that stuff. You just haven't had the right perspective on it. I mean, we're already doing death magic every single day of our lives. We're doing necromancy every single day of our lives. We're just not calling them those words. Every time you put gasoline in your car, you're powering it with dinosaurs. Every time you microwave some leftovers, you are taking the physical remains of something and reanimating them so that you can derive life from it. When you use compost in a garden, oh gosh, you are wearing dead plants, you are in a structure built by dead plants. Death is around you every second of your life, and it's hugely important to everything you do. You're just not using those words to define it. There's a ritual construct called necrophagy you might have seen in ye old ancient Greece. That means nothing, but ancient Greece. Let's pick a space. Necrophagy is the idea that you are ritually consuming flesh for ritual purposes, for divine purposes, for necromantic purposes. You're eating a dead thing. You do that every day. It doesn't matter if you call it a ham sandwich. It's still necrophagy. You're still consuming flesh to give yourself life. So it's all around you. So just flip the lens on it, and it's already there.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
I really love that. Well, I want to jump in because I've always been fascinated by. I grew up in a very staunch. I grew up in Utah. I'm not religious at all.
I know what's up. Yeah.
Yeah, you get it. I kind of grew interested in Wiccan, and I kind of looked into it. I was fascinated by it. It was the one religion I felt that seemed to really be something special. It's one I kind of connected to, but you've really taken it on. How did you discover Wiccan? And I mean, if I'm asking this improperly, please let me know. But what was the appeal for you, and why did that speak to you so much?
I feel like this will be another ramble. I'm terrible at
bring it.
Your poor listeners. Oh my God. So of course I was with these, evangelical nuts as a kid, and it's bad. It's terrible. They're like quiverful movements, nut jobs, like young feminine presenting people in the church are like married off at 13, and like that's fun parts of my backstory. So there's that. But after my experience with death, I definitely came back weirder than I started, and they became obsessed with this idea in the church that I was possessed with the spirit of witchcraft. Those are just the words they use to describe anything they don't understand that a feminine presenting person is doing, right? It's witchcraft, probably. I remember going through exorcisms. I was baptized like 7 times. They were like laying on hands and praying. It was like constant nonsense. Me and Devin Hunter were the only people I know that have been exorcised at all, least of all more than once. So that's the fun parts of growing up with like crazy evangelical stuff. But all this time there's this dialogue that me being different, this sort of outcast figure, has made me a witch somehow. And I didn't know what that meant as a kid. It meant fuck all to me as a kid, right? This is just a thing people are saying, and I don't understand it, and I hear these words in church. But after I ran away from home, I wound up trying to backtrack my way through an education because, I wasn't educated as a kid. I had no foundation, so I had to go off and get one. I always tell people a fun fact about me is that I have 4 college degrees, and I have no elementary, middle, or high school education, and no diploma or GED.
Wow.
I skipped all that. That was just, that's how that worked out. But so I'm trying to educate myself, and I'm rambling through a library, and I find one of those horrible, like, Time Life Mysteries of the Universe books. Do you remember those? Terrible, like, UFO conspiracy theory crap.
I have those.
You have them. So the one that, like, it's witchcraft, and it's got Monique Wilson with their arms spread out on the front. Yes. So that's the first book I pick up that has witches in it. And people ask me, what was your first occult book? And I say that, and they're like, fuck you. No. It's the worst book. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But I'm reading through it, and it's describing witches like there's some kind of novelty, of course, because it was not meant for pagan people. It was meant for curiosity seekers. Mm-hmm. But I was vibing on it. I was like, I get this. These might be my people. And the sort of yada yada over it. After running away from home, I married an idiot that just, was grooming and enjoying my trauma and all the advantages that could glean from it. So I spent like a few more years kind of closeted and messed up, and then divorced that moron and got my life together. It was for the best. But all that time I sort of had in the back of my head that that's what I was. Like I knew that about myself. And after the divorce, I was like, all right, maybe it's time to like find my people and really sink my teeth into that. So I cobbled together this embarrassing ritual on winter solstice of all days. And I was like, I want to find my people. And I remember getting this really clear message. You'll have a thought that pops up and you're like, yes, that was the message. And it was Long Island. And I remember being fucking pissed off about it because I was like, is this an instruction or a cocktail order? I don't know what to take from this. But like the next day I wound up Googling like Long Island plus witches or whatever. And of course I found Raymond Buckland and Gardnerians, because that's like OG American witchcraft is the Long Island line. So I wound up doing some reading and poke around and found some folks on Witchvox, which doesn't exist anymore. Of course, we've got nostalgia for Witchvox, but I really dedicated hard and learned it, got through all my degrees, and now I teach it to other people. So.
Wow. And kind of piggybacking off that, because you kind of told us about your history and your entry point. For someone who may be kind of brand new to this world and wanting to study this practice that you teach, where do you recommend that they start as like an entry point to your field?
Oh gosh. So if they're interested in Gardnerian Wicca, of course the internet is a lot different than it was in the days of Witchvox. You can find all kinds of groups online that can point you in directions. Most of them are terrible and riddled with assholes. If you want me to tell you who's in your area that's cool people, send me an email. I've got a link in the footer of my website that says Seekers, and if you click that, you'll see my email address in there, and I'll point you to someone near you.
Nice. Right. I've always felt that that's kind of it is funny to me, like you described. Like I again from Utah, I get the whole religious thing. Why do you think it draws so many of us? And I'm drawn to it as well.
We do see pagan faiths, and it's an umbrella, but a terrible one. We don't all fit under it well. And to be fair, pagan is a pejorative that just means not a Christian. But for all of us that fall under that not Christian umbrella, comfortably or not, it is the fastest growing ideology in the world. And of those groups, Wicca is the fastest growing. So there's definitely that. And I think, to kind of loop in my other two thoughts, the reasons for that is, one, the sense of autonomy. You are in control of your experience with the gods. You don't need a mediator or a book to stand between you and your experience, per se. I tell people all the time, you'll get great things and great information from bad books by bad authors. You'll get bad stuff and bad information from great books and great authors. Read everything and just be discerning. That's what's important. See what you can find that's good, and even if the only thing you found in that book was, this isn't what I want to be doing, you still learned something, and that's worthwhile.
Yeah.
But my last thought of the three, and I think this is something I talk about a lot if I do prison ministry, within at least the construct of Wicca, we don't have a concept of sin or forgiveness. So you and you alone are responsible for making right wrongs that you have done in the world. There's no fear of hell or retribution, and there's no magic grandpa there to make it better for you. You have to fix that. And I think that comes back around to that piece about autonomy, where I think people need something where they have sort of a firm and clear understanding of not just their own responsibility, but it really sort of speaks truly to how messed up the world can be sometimes. It's like, I've made mistakes and I have to work to fix them, and only I can do that. And in the end, it still might not be great, but I'll have done my bit. And I think that matters a lot to people. Matters to me, at least.
Yeah, well, it's responsibility.
I watched my mother beat the shit out of my sisters and I every single week, and every Sunday stand up and give testimony and talk about how she backslid and ask for forgiveness and cry, and it was all good and fine. And on Monday morning, start all over again. So I know
That's it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly what
Oh my
Like
God,
what-
I feel you.
like,
Oh my
what
God,
does
I'm
it
so sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. What even is this interview? I'm loving it though. It's
Thank you for being like so comfortable with it.
This is awesome.
There's a quote that I love that I wanted to give you, but I don't want to misremember it. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
So this is quoted by Frankenstein's character in Penny Dreadful, the first season, I think. The glory of life surmounts the fear of death. Good Christians fear hellfire, so to avoid it, they are kind to their fellow man. Good pagans do not have this fear, so they can be who they are, good or ill, as their nature dictates. We have no fear of God, so we are accountable to no one but each other.
Hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. I watched that season. I
Same.
love that season.
It's an awesome show.
Frankenstein was awesome. I love that character.
I had some questions about your book in particular,
Sure.
and kind of plays into what you were just talking about. One of the things I was wondering was when you were researching your book, 'cause I know you kind of get into sort of the history of necromancy. Was it challenging to find information on the history of the practice, as some of it was probably erased by people who opposed it?
Yeah, that's definitely a tough neighborhood. And it was one of the reasons why I wrote the book, because I'm sure this might make some folks grouchy, but the few modern texts we have out there in one of two camps, they are very academic. They're not practice oriented. And I love those, but not everyone can really chew through that. Or two, they are hot garbage that read like someone written in the back room of a Hot Topic on break. And I'm not into that either. So, it's not,
Fair enough.
neither of those are necessarily approachable for folks. And unfortunately, they have a lot of like bad scholarship, or they're very like cis heteronormative, weird like binary vibes and a lot of this stuff. Like one of the most popular, like if you ask someone in the community to recommend you a book, they'll probably recommend you Martin Coleman's Communing with the Spirits. It's very popularly recommended. And he's dead, so I don't feel bad about like dragging it real hard. This is a terrible book, but super terrible. And in one passage, it starts talking about like who makes a good necromancer, and they talk about how women, unquote, who practice necromancy will be like at the far reaches of extreme behavior, and they'll have wet dreams every night, and they'll dress slutty, and they'll want to fuck everybody or whatever. And it's like, this is somebody's Tinder profile.
Yeah, that sounds like Penthouse Forum more like.
But yeah, I sort of dug through everything that there was, no matter how much I hated reading it, and was like, okay, so we either have no scholarship or it's completely academic, and everybody just sort of stopped short of digging into something that really worked. And I want to be super clear that I use necromancy very colloquially to mean any magic or mundane work with the dead. And every culture throughout history has had some sort of death practice, but I tend to stick to things with like a Greek or Kemetic origin, very sort of European. So I live in that area. But I determined I was going to read everything that existed, and I did. Good, bad, or ugly. And there's a lot of ugly. I remember at one of my just darkest, most miserable moments digging through all the trash, Facebooking or tweeting or something, whatever. I can do necromancy just fine without scraping jizz off a Coke mirror, because that was directly related to some trash I had just read. And everyone's like, what is even happening to you these days? So yeah, you have to read the crap. You have to read the crap, you have to read the good stuff, you have to read the boring stuff, and you have to poke through history, and you have to look at all the like, I mean, some of our most famous grimoire that reference necromancy were written by popes. And like, if your first instinct is not to think that this is anti-pagan propaganda, you're probably not thinking about it right. Like, but to be fair, they have some absolutely bonkers stuff in them, so they're fun to read. Like, One of them suggests that you have to go dig up a corpse, and presumably on Christmas. I'll get back to that. Dig up a corpse. You have to pull out their femurs in particular, and walk backwards for like 5,200 something steps. It's very specific, into the Catholic Church during Christmas Mass, like midnight Mass. So I hope you did the math ahead of time, or were real careful counting your steps. I hope that works out for you. So crazy.
Yeah.
Then it said you're supposed to lob them into the church. You just throw them in the middle of Mass, and then you leave backwards for the same amount of steps, which sounds absolutely nuts.
Interesting.
And then you lay down in the grave you dug, hands on your chest, and then that spirit will talk to you. And again, I can do necromancy a lot easier than that, though it does sound very funny to just throw somebody's leg bones into the middle of a Christmas service and run away backwards.
I'm trying to picture this.
Yeah. I mean,
It really paints a picture.
yeah.
It tickles me. But yeah, I mean, just sort of digging through history of people that were mostly murdered for their practices, and people that just don't exist anymore, and trying to piece back together what they were doing from mostly words written by people that hated them. That's a hard task, and
Yeah.
I'm really clear in the book that a lot of it is my personal gnosis, and I think people are a little scared of personal gnosis. It's like, well, you can't write something down that's just your practice, and I think you can and you should, as long as you're clear about it. This is something I do, and it might not work for you, because otherwise we're not saying anything new or different. We're all just writing high school essays about the same topic. We're all looking at the same wiki page or whatever the equivalent of that is. Like, after a point, nobody's having any new ideas if we don't share what we're doing in our own home.
Right.
So there's a lot of that.
And you kind of told us the way not to do these things. Can you kind of take us through what your way of practicing this is?
Oh my gosh. I think when you are someone like myself, or an author at least, someone that people see in the community as a certain kind of person, there's this idea that you get up every day and you put on your hooded robe and you have your like Flava Flav sized pentagram, and you roll out into rituals or whatever, and that's your whole life. But the reality is I spend a lot of my life on my couch watching Netflix and eating wheat thins, probably. So I haunt my couch a lot. Haunting is just too frequent a place. Who amongst us has not haunted their couch? But yeah, I think my daily practice looks more mundane than people would think. Gardening and composting, and doing a lot of work in death. I mean, just the work of it, being hospice volunteer, which I recommend to anyone who wants to have a meaningful practice with death. And it's a great way to help people and be there for families. You can devote as much or as little time to it as you want, and it's really meaningful work for you and for them. Doing embalming, funeral directing, planning and stuff for families who need me, that kind of thing. That's a lot of my practice. On the other end of the spectrum, I think it's a lot for me about giving the dead space to just be and exist. I mean, I think we have this idea that it's like they're haunting a space, and that's somehow inherently a bad thing and they should leave. But who's to say you have more right to be there than them? Just because you happen to be the person that's currently renting that apartment, maybe they built it. Who knows? Who knows what the story is like? So I spend a lot of time talking to folks about making space with the dead around them, and if they're not comfortable, I invite those dead to come back home with me. I joke that my house is the most haunted place in North Carolina because I'm constantly going, come on, it's gonna be all right. You can come hang out with me. But and then of course there's the wall of assholes. That's a big part of my practice. Owing to the nature of next of kin in the United States, a lot of people wind up finding themselves responsible for the remains of people who hurt them. Maybe your parent was your abuser, or maybe a person that hurt you decided in prison they were going to leave you their cremated remains. That shit happens every day.
Oh.
And when people just can't stand to either deal with scattering them or disposing of them, but they also can't stand to look at them every day, they're free to contact me and I will add them to the wall of dicks over there. And I deal with those assholes every day. My wall of, murderers and rapists and abusive parents and touchy uncles and whatever. Like, they just get to go into timeout over there. So
How do you take that on? I mean, do you ever, how often does that get to you? Or are you able to separate that for yourself from that?
I think, it would be a lie to say it didn't get to me sometimes, but the power balance is different here now, right? Like, I have control over the situation that I mightn't have in other situations in my life. So it's a warded space and they don't have freedom of movement and they can't really bother me, and I get to know they're stuck in there until anybody they hurt is dead. That's sort of the boundary of the ward. It's for the natural life of their victim, or until they have attained a form of understanding of what they have done. So they're just stuck in there like goldfish in a bowl. So
Keep them there.
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah. Interesting.
And then, of course, if the person who the remains came from, like if they decide they've gotten to a better place mentally and they want to go scatter them or deal with them or whatever, they come collect them and it's all good. But,
I actually got to kind of jumping off of that, and because we see a lot of horror movies, that may shock you.
Yeah.
And we actually just saw a film that I think we can kind of talk about, Talk to Me, which is about talking to the dead. It's a very
I
powerful.
haven't seen it.
No, I won't tell you anything. It's powerful.
Yeah.
See, it's probably a one-time watch, but it's pretty. It's very well done.
Yeah.
But with the obviously this kind of thing is done in movies from The Changeling with George C. Scott. You see this kind of world explored in horror a lot. What are the biggest misconceptions you find with what you see on screen and the reality?
I could start with something sort of left of that.
Oh,
but
sure.
every time I see a movie in which there's a scene in like an embalming prep room, it makes me fucking crazy, the instruments they have on the tray, because it's usually like 100 hemostats and a scalpel, but they never ever have an aneurysm hook, which is like the main instrument we use to embalm, and that makes me crazy. It's like, oh my god, how are they even doing this job? They don't have the things they need at all. It's like, someone please get, like a consultant in there to pick out some instruments for you. But I could talk about The Autopsy of Jane Doe. That's a movie that I love to be mad about, because it deals with, it's kind of specific because it deals with funerary stuff, but it also deals with witchcraft.
Right.
So that one sounds great. I get the most mad when they get to the part about the plant, the flower, because they call the plant one thing and they say what it does. And they obviously picked that plant because it sounds witchy and spooky, but it doesn't do the stuff that they say at all. And there is a plant that does that stuff, and they could have used it the whole time. It just really annoys me.
What is it?
Oh gosh, I'd have to go back and look again. It seems like they mention like belladonna or something when they really needed datura or angel's trumpet, or maybe it's the opposite. It's been a minute, so but there's that, and then the entire setup for the movie is itself just completely unrealistic in terms of like funeral services. Like the chain of evidence from where the body is found to how it winds up there for autopsy, none of that would have ever happened. The conditions in which the space is held never would happen. Like the whole elevator thing, like you literally cannot have that. Can't have that. Like the ventilation issue alone, like you would die down there running chemicals. Like it's terrible. So just pull my hair out every time I hear somebody talk about how much they like that movie.
I'll never watch it the same way.
I know, right?
We'll watch it together. We'll do like a Zoom sesh and we'll watch it. and I'll just complain the whole time about every single thing.
I would actually love
We'll
that.
take you up on that.
We'll do like a live
Okay.
commentary.
All right,
should.
it's a deal.
Okay.
I'm very on board with this idea.
Okay.
That'd be a fun
Bitch
way to
about movies with Mortellus. Yeah.
Yeah. that'd be our first live film commentary.
Yeah, we've thought about doing it. I was, to be honest, I've been trying to get him to do it to Showgirls, and we haven't done it yet.
I don't know
so.
why you're so obsessed with it.
I'm obsessed with this movie. I don't know why. Don't ask me.
Showgirls is so wacky. It's totally bonkers. I love that movie.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
I'll do
you.
commentary on Showgirls. Let's do it.
Do you want to join us for Showgirls when we do it?
I'll do it. Yes.
We're down. We're down.
Okay. So new team. We're doing movie commentary. All right.
Excellent. Love it.
You should know I have a soft spot for absolutely garbage movies. Like,
Oh, big same.
So do I.
I collect them, and not for the reason most people think. I think most people are like, terrible movie, totally hateable and funny. But one of my favorites is Manos Hand of Fate. Like, who doesn't love it?
Yes.
Like, I specifically love movies that did not mean to be bad.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing about that film is it was written by a fertilizer salesman from Texas who never had written anything before or after. It was their first work. Oh, like, literally, what is this interview? We're not even talking about death. But they believed in this movie so much that they put their own money into it, right? They wrote it, they cast it, they directed it, they produced it, they paid for it, they found people to be in it. Those people worked on contingency, like they were going to get paid off of royalties. They believed in it, right? And my thought is that all of those people believed in it. They loved it. They wanted to be doing it.
Mhm.
And if that many people can love something that is that demonstrably terrible, then anything is lovable.
Yeah.
I'm worthy of love. You are worthy of love. Who isn't worthy of love? If that many people can love that enough to make it. And
Yeah.
I just find that precious. It delights me. There's a scene in that movie that makes no sense because they cut to the kids in the car.
Mhm.
Do you know why that scene is there?
Hmm.
The girl in the car was meant to play the lead, but she broke her leg. And they didn't want to tell her she couldn't be in the film, so they added the scene so that her leg would be hidden and she could sit the whole time.
Oh, it's wholesome.
Yeah, it's totally wholesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's why
Wow.
I love terrible movies for that reason.
I'm big same, and that's a great way of looking at them too. I've never looked at terrible movies from the perspective of like people just love doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great outlook on that.
Well,
sort of thing.
and to be fair, like even those terrible movies, even movies like that one, Manos, or Plan 9 from Outer Space, there is a lot of love in that.
Oh,
There is
yeah.
a lot of passion, and
it
it's
is.
it's very easy. We are very we're kind of when we like to tear shit apart.
Yeah.
We really do. And I kind of think there's an art in that. I think there's an art in the ridiculousness of a movie like that.
Mm.
You know?
Just knowing that the actor who played Torgo didn't know how to put on the leg lifts and was wearing them backwards. That stuff like delights me. Like, boy, they look like they have pillow knees the whole time. I just adore that. But yeah, I mean, those days when I get up and like PTSD stuff is hard, and I'm like, wow, it would be nice to have parents who love me even at all. Like, maybe that stuff gets in your head. It doesn't matter how old you are. And then I think, maybe they're busted because like 100 people loved Manos enough to fucking make it. So maybe they suck. It's not a me problem. It helps me get through the day.
Well, I love that.
I love that too.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. That's a great way to look
Yeah,
at bad
absolutely.
movies. Great way.
Yeah, really. Oh,
Have
like
you
I'm
ever
gonna
seen-
take that to heart.
Have you ever seen Jim Cotta? It's one of my favorites.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah. Who hasn't seen Jim Cotta? A movie, the plot of which is a town that somehow has a pommel horse as a central feature of their town square, where a lot of people with reach weapons just run into his legs one at a time. Love that.
That is
Love
okay.
that. I love Parmesan because Parmesan is like whatever extras were around got to wear whatever outfit they had. And it looks Eastern European, but also maybe it's the red fair. You don't know. And I love that okay, I can't remember if she's Taiwanese or Filipino, but the princess in the film, but her father's like Lou from the corner deli for no reason. I love that film. If anyone listening has not seen it, definitely go watch it.
Yeah, I feel like you might like. Have you seen Miami Connection?
Of course, I've seen Miami Connection. Who has not seen Miami Connection?
More people than you'd think. I've been spreading the word.
What are the odds of one ninja-based pop synth band vying with another ninja-based pop synth band for the same like crappy bar gig?
Right. Beautiful picture.
The one guy in college is like 60 years old. I don't know what's happening there.
Right.
You know what it is? I think to an extent, I remember as a kid, I don't know if it's like for you guys, but I remember like going down to cable and watching, like I would be like, well, gosh, I'm going to watch something I'm not supposed to. You know, my parents are asleep. I'm going to watch the Boogans. I'm going to watch Porky's. I'm going to watch that shit. And it was like, I found so many, I remember a movie called, I think not Private Resort, Private it was something about a private detective, full nudity, really dirty, really cheap, kind of silly. And while I discovered all these movies, I was like, I never hear about these movies. Why are these movies are awesome?
Have you watched? Hot take. Have you watched the Spy Kids movies, like the Nickelodeon Spy Kids movies?
Of course.
Oh yeah.
Those movies are so messed up. It's like an existential crisis. The first, you're like 5 minutes into it, and you're like, how are these kids even functioning? Because you've immediately dealt with the fact that your parents don't know everything. They're not capable. You have to take care of them, and they might be dead. And then they immediately meet robots that look exactly like them. So their sense of self is broken. What's reality is broken. What is humanity is broken. So it's messed up. And then you get this fever dream of a show with the clip of the one guy singing the song with the super fucked up. That whole movie's so weird. Not nearly as weird as Spy Kids 3, which is my favorite from the franchise, of course.
Yes, I agree.
Steve Buscemi like flies in on a pig.
Buscemi always brings it.
I wonder if God stays in heaven because he too fears his creation. Like, what a line for a Nickelodeon movie! Like,
no, seriously.
Oh my gosh.
That movie's so out of right field at all times.
So I think we need to seriously do this commentaries with you.
I know.
This would be a lot of fun.
I'm down for that.
When we started this conversation, I absolutely did not foresee us ending up at Spy Kids.
No.
Oh my gosh. Like I said, I'm a terrible interview subject.
Oh no, we
disagree.
What we love about the show is just like seeing where conversations go. They can get weird. They can go wherever. This is like our exact kind of interview.
Yeah,
so
we love you, basically.
This is great. Seriously,
that's what we're saying.
I love anybody that can talk to me meaningfully about Manos. That's
right.
So
we have to wrap it up pretty soon. I know we're gonna do one more, but we need to do more with you.
We would love to.
Honestly,
we would love to have you back.
So I guess let's. Maybe we'll do two more. My question, series, I guess, is where your book comes out October. I want to say the
October 3rd. Yeah.
What are you planning on the next? Do you jump ahead like that?
So this is terrible. This is the reality of authors, I think, is where you have like a pile of works in progress and like nothing finished. I have like 11 books that I'm writing all at once.
Wow.
I have the third and fourth book finished. They're done. They're waiting to be published. And I'm currently working on an expanded edition of my first book, Do I Have to Wear Black? A publisher hopped at one point. I found my forever family, I think, over at Crossed Crow Books. They're cool people, and
we love them.
Glad to be working with them. They're super cool people.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see what the rest of my forever is, writing books. Or maybe tomorrow I'll trip to death bringing my groceries in. That'll be the end of me. I embalmed someone once who was perfectly healthy and was standing on flat ground unlocking their front door holding a bag of groceries and tripped and broke their neck. Just life.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen.
No.
And
that's
then
like-
a woman fell from over 10,000 feet from an airplane, strapped to a chair, landed in a swamp, broke most of her bones, and lived there for 5 days before being discovered. So
Wow.
life is incredibly fragile and incredibly resilient all at once. We never know what tomorrow will bring.
I love
Absolutely.
that. God, the mysteries of life, seriously.
I know.
I mean, it sounds so pretentious to say, but at the same time, yeah, it is. It's weird. It's weird what we survive, what we don't. I don't even understand it.
Oh, yeah.
I always tell people though, like if death scares you and if you're worried, I hear people say sometimes just like feels like death's like right behind me, right at my neck, following me. It's like you need to remember that death is a gatherer, not a hunter.
Mhm.
Life is something precious. Death doesn't want to take it from you. They will fight for you every second, and they love people that, you know, mad scientists and necromancers and healers and anybody that's going to rail against death. They're delighted. You know, how dare somebody take life from you and decide that it was their job to know when your day was up.
And this has been such a cool conversation too, because like me for the past 10 years, I've been trying to kind of work through kind of my feelings about death and stuff. Because I had a very close call where I basically smashed my body against the tree, and like the paramedics were like, my head was about this close to a shard of wood that almost went through my skull. They're like, you were this close. Like they were gonna take my legs. Like it's a miracle that I'm walking. And so kind of following that, I've always kind of had, you know, been working through processing it and kind of outlook. And it's interesting kind of hearing your perspective on it. And it's, you know, it's something I'm still personally kind of working through myself.
You know, it's funny when people have experiences like that, the instinct is often to think, I was so close, I almost died. But it's never their instinct to think, death was right there and chose not to take me. Death had my back.
I love that.
I love that.
People are scared. They're scared of death. They're scared of, you know, nobody wants to be in a cemetery after dark, for example. But we look up at the stars every night and make wishes on ghosts because those stars burned out a long time ago. Death is all around us, and it's beautiful. Just gotta flip the script on it.
That's great. I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah, this was amazing. This was amazing, honestly.
Thank you so much for taking the, like, this has been such a cool conversation.
It was a pleasure to meet you both, and I hope we get a chance to chat again. And
We will. We'll make it
Absolutely.
happen. We gotta do the movie thing. We gotta do it.
No, we love talking to you.
Yeah.
For everyone listening, I hope you'll go watch The Satanic Rites of Dracula, which stars Sir Christopher Lee, and in it, Dracula trips into a bush to death. So,
nice little recommendation.
Yes, I love it.
go check that out.
And to kind of, you know, point it back to you, not to take it away from Christopher Lee, but kind of where can people go to find you and your work? Like, where should people check you out?
Oh gosh, I'm not really worth finding, but
Yes, you are.
Oh, no. Strong disagree.
We disagree.
if you do the Linktree thing, just / A Crow and the Dead, and you will find me. I'm Mortellus or A Crow and the Dead, pretty much everywhere. And my website, of course, is also my name. So I'm out there. I'm around.